Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. It's the post-game pod for the Timberwolves lost to the short-handed Suns. Today on the show, what happened to the Timberwolves defense in this game? Terrible perimeter defense, a Rudy Gobert ejection, and a 40-burger gone to waste from Anthony Edwards. It's all coming next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully you had a fantastic start to the week. Unfortunately, not a victory Tuesday, a disappointing loss to a Devin Booker-less Suns team on Monday night for the Wolves. And there's a lot to break down in this one. It was an eventful game. Anthony Edwards scores 40. Rudy Gobert gets ejected after playing really well in the first half of this game. The Wolves just don't get enough from their supporting cast offensively, and their perimeter defense is so bad. And I know they only gave up 108 points, but like to this version of the Suns, the amount of points in the paint that this version of the Suns got against the Wolves, really frustrating. But a lot to dig into here. And I want to start with my three big things here off the top. We'll get into studs and duds a little bit later. That's what we got on tap here today. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. You can also watch on YouTube as well. All right. My three big things. And I'm going to hit, like, these are the things that we're going to focus on today. I'm not going to go blow by blow for this. I know it was a close game at the end. I actually thought Minnesota executed okay down the stretch. There were a couple of weird, just ISO ball possessions for both Ant and Randle, but they made enough of them work that, it's fine. I really can only think of like one bad shot down the stretch. And then the final possession when Minnesota, the inbounds play, Phoenix defended well and kept Ant from getting the ball. Jaden got a decent look in the corner. And I mean, McDaniels is like a 50% corner 3-point shooter this year. I know he didn't shoot it well tonight or Monday night, but it just, sometimes it doesn't work late game execution. That wasn't the problem, which of course it was the last time the Wolves played the Suns when they lost by 1 in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. This was more just everything else along the way, more so than it was, the final minute or so of the game. So my three big things, we got to start with the perimeter defense. Minnesota on the perimeter was terrible in this game. Name a guy, he was bad on the perimeter defensively. Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels struggled. Dante DiVincenzo struggled. Mike Conley's been struggling. Jalen Clark only played 12 minutes. We could talk about that. Jalen Clark, the Wolves are 11 or 12-0? I think 12-0 when he plays 15 or more minutes, and 0-4 now when he plays less than that. He played just 12 minutes. And Bones, by the way, like Bones Hyland, we'll talk more about him later, was in the rotation, and he's not a good defender. It just turnstiles on the perimeter. And that's what led to 50 points in the paint for the Phoenix Suns. The Wolves were able to cover it up a little bit early. Like Minnesota was down 4 points at halftime and tied going to the fourth quarter. Rudy gets ejected in the fourth quarter. And that was really kind of, I thought, like the perimeter defense already was bad before that, but Gobert getting ejected meant that like there was no additional line of defense, right? Like there's no additional line of defense once you get cooked on the perimeter. Rudy left the game with this thing tied at 69 with just under 8 minutes to play in the third quarter. And of course, Minnesota ended up losing by 3. It was turnstiles with no second line of defense. And that's what led to the 50 points in the paint. And the points in the paint that were scored before Rudy was ejected, it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was the fact that it was just like, Matador defense on the perimeter. It just made matters worse. So losing the points in the paint battle 50-40. And remember, this is a Suns team with no Devin Booker. This is a Suns team that relies on offensive rebounding, which Minnesota gave up 14 offensive rebounds in this game too. And I guess I would lump this in with the points of the paint point is the Timberwolves are a spotty defensive rebounding team. Phoenix is a good offensive rebounding team, and they're missing their best offensive player. So of course they're going to try and make up for some of that on the glass. Mark Williams played really, really well in this game, 22 and 7. He had 3 offensive rebounds. Ryan Dunn had 3 offensive rebounds off the bench. And Minnesota's guards didn't do enough. In fact, everybody that played for the Suns, except for Dillon Brooks, got at least 1 offensive rebound. And Minnesota didn't do enough to counter that. The majority of Minnesota's offensive rebounding production was Rudy Gobert, by the way. He had 5 of the Timberwolves' 13 offensive rebounds. But the point, really, the broader point is the perimeter defense, which has been really spotty for the Timberwolves this year. And we have yet to see a moment in time this season where both the Wolves' offense and defense was firing on all cylinders. Early in the year, it was the offense. The defense was bad. Then it flipped, and the defense was better than the offense. And this game was all topsy-turvy as well. Ultimately, the defense I would fault. And even in a game when the Wolves scored just 105, and I guess then the other thing that I would fault, the other like really big thing, is my second of my 3 big things. So number 1 is perimeter defense, which led to all the points in the paint. The impact of the Rudy Gobert ejection, which I guess we can hit now. I'm not about to argue that Rudy should have been ejected. He should have been. And it was obviously retaliatory after he got hit in the head, a few possessions prior by Williams. So not like Rudy doesn't like getting hit. He doesn't like getting hit in the head, right? Who does? He retaliated in a way that was really obvious and obviously was a flagrant 2 based on the letter of the law. No, it wouldn't have been a flagrant 2 ejection 20 years ago, or maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago, but it wasn't a smart play and it hurt his team. I'm not going to argue that he shouldn't have been ejected. And it's too bad too, because he'd played really well to that point. 15 and 8 for Rudy in this game in just 21 minutes. I mentioned the 5 offensive rebounds, 7 of 9 shooting from the field. And he and Julius Randle had a really good chemistry going early in the game. Randle ended up with 8 assists. I think half of them were to Gobert, if I'm not mistaken. So 4 of Randle's 8 assists were to Rudy Gobert. And, Randle loves to be in that mid-range, and he had a couple of those shots late. Well, he had a lot of those shots throughout the game. But when the big would step up on Randle, he could just dump it off to Gobert for a dunk. And that's something that's not always open, depending on the opponent. And Randle's not always great at taking it when it is open. And in this game, Randle made the right choices. The Suns were leaving Gobert open. And remember, I talked about this in the wake of the loss to the Clippers, the win over the Clippers on Saturday, that Gobert only had, 1 field goal attempt in that game. He had none at halftime, and I think he finished with 1. The Wolves were not taking what the defense was giving them. In this game, they were. Clearly, it was a focus. And then, of course, when Gobert gets ejected midway through the third quarter, it all goes out the window. All right, second big thing I want to talk about is perimeter shooting. Minnesota in this game was 26% on 3-point attempts. 26%. Randle was 2 of 4, including, I would say both Randle and Ant, they each had 1 ill-advised shot down the stretch. Randle's was a left-wing 3-pointer with 16 on the shot clock or something, and it was semi-contested. It just wasn't a great shot. Ant was 3 of 7. Randle was 2 of 4. So they combined to go 5 of 11 from outside the arc. The rest of the team combined to go 6 for 33. Well, actually, I should include Bones Hyland in that because he was great. Bones was 4 of 6. So combine those 3 guys, Randle, Ant, and Bones, combined to go 9 of 17. So greater than 50% from outside the arc. The rest of the team went 2 of 25. So Wolves players not named Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, or Bones Hyland went 2 of 25 from outside the arc. Biggest culprits, Nas with 2 of 10. He made the only other 2 threes. McDaniels 0 of 5, including the miss in the final seconds. DiVincenzo, uncharacteristically 0 of 6, scored just 2 points. Conley was also 0 of 3. And so I guess the only other guy that shot a 3 was TJ Shannon, missed his only 3-point attempt. So miserable perimeter shooting for Minnesota. You obviously can't win a game when Dante DiVincenzo scores 2 points. You can't have 2 starters combined to score 6 points. McDaniels and DiVincenzo combined to score 6 points on 2 of 14 and 0 of 11 outside the arc. That can't happen. You're just not going to win. And somehow they were still in it at the end. I mean, not somehow. The reason is Anthony Edwards. Obviously, we'll talk about his offensive performance here in a little bit. But the issues on the perimeter, both the defensive point of attack defensively, and then perimeter shooting on the offensive end by anyone not named Ant, Julius, or Bones, that's what did the Wolves in this game. Those are the 2 biggest takeaways. I've got a third big thing. Yes, we'll talk about Ant's performance. We'll talk studs and duds. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver might get hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel will let you jump in on that exact moment. Live spreads and money lines will adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can also bet like next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. There's a lot of really good games this Sunday. Lions at Rams. Rams favored by 5.5. I don't mind. Rams minus 5.5. Packers at Broncos. Packers favored by 2.5. I don't know. I don't mind Packers minus 2.5. I think they're a little bit of a better team. Yes, on the road, but that should be a fun game. A lot of fun NFL action coming up this week. If you want to be right in the middle, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. A big thank you once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We could not do it without you. By the way, you already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. You can join the Everydayer Club today. Get Locked On Wolves with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 per month or $50 a year. You can go to lockedonwolves.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more right now. Again, that URL is lockedonwolves.supercast.com. And by the way, I posted this on X. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my X handle right there on your screen at Beecken with 2 B's, 2 E's, CKEN. I retweeted an offer that we're doing. If you post your Spotify Wrapped and tag the Locked On Podcasts Twitter handle, the national account, then you're entered, or then you will receive, if you show that proof on the screenshot of your Spotify Wrapped, you will receive a free month of the Everydayer Club access. So a really good deal there to get you started with the ad-free podcast. All right. Let's talk about my third big thing. So my first one's perimeter defense. My second one's perimeter shooting. The last thing is the rotation. I thought that, the obvious thing is Bones Hyland took Rob Dillingham's minutes. I talked about on yesterday's show, like those final 2 rotation spots after the starters plus Mike Conley. Jalen Clark now officially has the 8th spot, even though he played only, the starters plus Mike Conley and Reid, and then Jalen Clark officially has the 8th spot with his, fluctuating between 10 and 15 minutes a game. We talked a lot about that on yesterday's show. Who gets the 9th spot / can be potentially more relied upon than, say, Mike Conley later in the season, Conley was bad in this game, at least shooting the ball, scoring the ball. He's tentative in the half court. Is it going to be TJ Shannon? Is it going to be Rob Dillingham? Well, guess what? TJ Shannon played 4 minutes of this game, and Bones Hyland, who hadn't played regular rotation minutes in like a month, played 16 minutes, scored 14 points on 8 shots, 4 of 6 outside the arc, hit a couple of really big shots late. The Suns got up by 11. It was their biggest lead of the game midway through the fourth quarter, and Bones came down and scored a couple of buckets, had a nice steal that then turned into an ill-advised shot, like got blocked by the underside of the rim trying to force something in transition. Also had a couple of silly turnovers. In true Bones fashion, they needed the offense. They needed the microwave scoring off the bench. They did not need the 3 turnovers, 2-3 assists for Bones Hyland. But overall, he gave them a punch that they haven't gotten. It's exactly what they need Rob Dillingham to do, is come in, knock down open threes. Run the offense, be in effect, the straw that stirs the drink on the offensive end of the floor. And when the ball swings back to you, knock down the shot. Don't try and do too much, which Bones does sometimes. Dillingham does sometimes. But the difference is Bones is making these open shots. They both compete defensively. I actually think Dillingham, in limited minutes for each of these guys this year, I thought Dillingham's actually looked better defensively than Hyland. I know Bones had a steal today, but he kind of lucked into it. So notable and important in this game. Like, honestly, Hyland was essential to the Timberwolves kind of not pseudo. It was a comeback. They were down 11 in the fourth quarter. Bones Hyland was a massive part of that, and they probably don't do that without Bones Hyland. He gives them a punch that Mike Conley doesn't in the backcourt. Obviously, Rob Dillingham has been unable to do or at least sustained when given the opportunity in the backcourt. And unfortunately, we're sitting here on December 9th saying that the Wolves, like, their punchiest backcourt guy right now is Bones Hyland. I don't mean that like long term, but it was in this game. I mean, obviously the side of Ant, DiVincenzo was punchless, 2 points on 7 shots. Shannon only played 4 minutes, missed his only shot attempt. Jalen Clark, obviously, he's not an offensive threat. Mike Conley didn't make a shot from the field in 15 minutes, 0 of 5. Like, I think Bones Hyland's going to get more minutes. The Wolves don't play again until Friday, but he's going to get more opportunities. And long term, like, Tim Connolly's, it's not great to not be able to have that be Rob Dillingham in that role, but that's what the role is 15 to 20 minutes a game, and you score, and you don't turn the ball over. Bones got half of that, but Rob Dillingham usually doesn't get any of that right? It's a combination of missed shots and silly turnovers, and at least the compete level's been there for Rob. So I hope that he gets an opportunity to play like Golden State Friday and then Sacramento, Memphis, like more opportunities moving forward, hopefully, for extended minutes for some of these young guys. But good for Bones Hyland to stay ready and play well when he got the opportunity. That's going to be something to watch because it's unsettled beyond the top 8. The 9th man / 10th man, because Finch did end up playing 10 guys in this game. It's been completely unsettled this year. And of course, the minutes balance and the way that, like, it's all impacted. Like, DiVincenzo is bad on the perimeter defensively. He only played 27 minutes. Gobert only played 21 because of the ejection. So it threw kind of the overall rotation and the minutes balance out of whack a little bit. But very curious to see, like, how much of this was because of the matchup versus the Wolves needed some offense because the perimeter shooting was so bad and Dillingham hasn't given you much there to this point in the season. Very interested to see how this looks on Friday night when the Timberwolves are at Golden State. All right. Other things. We got to talk about Ant. Anthony Edwards was awesome offensively in this game. 40 points on 21 shots. Ultra efficient. I think he started like 13 of 15 or 12 of 15 or 13 of 16. Just like a crazy efficient number. Missed a couple of shots toward the end. Still, obviously, 40 points on 21 shots. You take basically 2 points per shot every day of the week. 3 of 7 outside the arc, 7 of 9 at the line, 9 boards for Anthony Edwards in this game. He actually tied for the team lead in rebounding. Wouldn't have been the case if Gobert hadn't been ejected. He had 8 in 21 minutes. But Naz, Reid, and Ant each had 9 rebounds. Ant only turned it over 1 time, which was nice to see. Turnovers were a massive issue the last couple times out for Anthony Edwards. So to see him have just 1 turnover. Now, he only had 2 assists. And as I mentioned earlier, there were a couple of kind of disjointed possessions there toward the end where Ant was just like, all right, I'm just going to do this. Honestly, like, given the context of the rest of the game and how Ant had been playing in this game, it's not a massive problem. Remember, he had 44 about a week ago, last Tuesday against the Pelicans, the double overtime win. And then he combined to shoot just 6 of 17 over the next 2 games, the Pelicans and the Clippers, 26 points on 17 shots across those 2 games. He scores 40 on 21 shots in this game alone. 3 of 7 from 3 is good. Good to see. He only attempted 1 3-pointer against the Clippers on Saturday. So, overall, we've seen the assist numbers tick downwards slightly over the past week and a half or so. The rebounding numbers have gone up slightly. I feel like the overall activity level was back to where we had seen it, prior to this, to the 2-game slump for Ant. I liked how he was getting to his spots and squeezing the trigger, getting to the line 9 times, and also with the relatively steady diet of mid-range attempts he had in this game. It was nice to see him still get to the line for 9 free throw attempts. So a good overall Anthony Edwards performance. He really obviously likes to try and stick it to Dillon Brooks. So that was fun. And there's nobody else. Like, Royce O'Neal is a good defender. This side of Brooks and O'Neal, there's no other perimeter players that really are effective against Ant on the Suns roster. So good to see him score in a significant way. And by the way, I should say, when he was off the floor in the early 4th quarter, that's when the Suns, like, this was a tie game. I guess it was a tie game going into the 4th quarter, and it stayed that way, or it was that way late in the 3rd into early in the 4th. And then the Suns rattled off a couple of long runs, kind of sandwiched around a timeout and a Naz 3 before Ant came back in the game. I think it was like an 8 or 9 point game by the time he came back. And sure enough, Ant finished a +4 in a game the Timberwolves lost by 3. So Anthony Edwards was really, really good. The reverse of what we saw the last couple times out. When Ant struggled, a lot of the other guys played well. Jaden McDaniels played well. Naz Reid played well the last couple games. Neither one of those guys were good in this game. And Ant was awesome. The exact opposite. I mean, Naz and Jaden combined to score 10 points on 3 of 19 shooting and shoot 2 of 15 outside the arc. And Anthony Edwards puts up 40 points on 21 shots. It's amazing how that works. Just completely flips. It's actually a kind of a perfect microcosm. I wish I would have thought of this, said this off the top of the show. It's kind of a microcosm of the season. I said this earlier in the show. The Wolves haven't clicked on offense and defense at the same time really at all this season. It's been one or the other. And that's what happened in this game compared to the last couple of games was McDaniels and Naz Reid, those ancillary stars. Not, Randle's obviously the number 2 guy, but McDaniels and Naz are the other guys with juice to their offense. And in the case of McDaniels, can really impact the game defensively. And they play well when Ant doesn't the last couple times out. And now it flips. Ant plays well. Those guys don't. And it leads to a 3-point loss. All right, we'll do studs and duds here next. We'll peek ahead at the rest of the week. And that's how we'll close out the show. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their limited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. The setup will only take a few minutes. Plus, you can bring your own phone and number without any issues. The service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. It feels good knowing you're overpaying just to stay connected. Or I guess in the case of Mint Mobile, you're not overpaying for the ability to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. All right. Let's land this plane here by talking individual studs and duds for this one. A couple of easy choices here. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, we just got done talking about him. 40 points on 15 of 21, 3 of 7 outside the arc, 7 of 9 free throws, 9 boards, 2 assists, a steal, only 1 turnover. Spotty on the perimeter defensively like everyone else was for Minnesota. But I thought he played hard in this game. I thought he was kind of everywhere, especially on the offensive end, and also pulling down 9 defensive rebounds was important. In a game that the Wolves struggled in the paint and barely had a rebounding edge overall. This is a good performance from Anthony Edwards. Julius Randle, 21 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. Another kind of weird high assist, low rebound game for Julius Randle. He's been, pulled out on the perimeter a little bit more in general. I mean, last game he had 6 assists, 3 rebounds. This game, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. I guess the game before that, the last Pelicans game, it was flipped, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. But all that to say, he led the Wolves in assists, had twice as many assists as the next highest assist guy. And again, half of those were to Rudy Gobert prior to the Gobert ejection. 3 turnovers for Randle in this one, but you'll take the 8-3 assist to turnover any day of the week. Also 21 points on 11 shots. Basically the same efficiency on a lower rate than Anthony Edwards, and nearly 2 points per shot. Same for Julius Randle. 2 of 4 outside the arc for Randle, 5 of 7 at the line. Both of those guys played well enough. Like when your 2 best players combined for 61 points and are 22 of 32 shooting, which is just crazy, you should win the basketball game. Hands down. Your 2 best players combined for 61 points on 32 shots. You should win the basketball game. Those 2 guys were studs in this game. Bones Hyland has to be the third one. I mean, there's nobody else that's even a candidate. Bones was 5 of 8 shooting for 14 points, 4 of 6 on threes, just 1 of 2 on twos, including that his 1 2-point miss was that weird layup in transition where he got blocked by the rim. 3 assists to 3 turnovers, 1 rebound, and a steal for Bones Hyland. He was a Timberwolves best +7 in this game. The only Timberwolves, by the way, with positive plus minuses in this game. Bones Hyland was a +7, Anthony Edwards was a +4, and Jaylen Clark in just 12 minutes was a +1. I'll say it again. They're 0-4 when Jaylen Clark is active and plays less than 15 minutes. When he plays 15 or more, or I think it's 14 or more, so 15 minutes, he is the Timberwolves are, I think, 12-0. So, yeah, more Jaylen Clark minutes, please. And also in a game when the perimeter defense is so bad, Jaylen Clark is your best, right now, your best point of attack perimeter defender. He needs to play more. Duds, Jaden McDaniels, 40 minutes played, 4 points on 7 shots. This was disappearing Jaden from a couple of years ago. 1 of 7 shooting, 0 of 5 outside the arc. I thought the shot he took in the closing seconds from the right corner, like he obviously had to take it. It was close. Like, you don't mind him shooting that shot. He was basically 50% from the corners this year prior to this game. 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, but you just need more than 4 points on 7 shots, and you need him to do a little more defensively, especially when Gobert is ejected. So not a great Jaden McDaniels performance. And then I'll go Naz Reid for the other one. 6 points on 12 shots, 2 of 12 shooting, 2 of 10 outside the arc. 9 rebounds is nice in 30 minutes, but just could not do his best Rudy Gobert impression down the stretch, as the Timberwolves just didn't have enough on either end, really. But again, as I said at the end of the last segment, like, listen to the shows Monday and Friday, and I'm praising Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid for just how good they were as the ancillary stars in the Timberwolves offense, and they were solid defensively. Naz has been doing better on that end of the floor lately, and Jaden's always good. Just very disappointing. I guess I'll go. We'll do a special third dud here tonight. I forgot about Dante's 2 points on 1 of 7, 0 of 6 outside the arc. Had a couple of looks in the fourth quarter that would have been big had they gone down. Instead, he missed. He also had 3 turnovers. So, I mean, like, if you're only going to score 2 points, don't turn the ball over. Somehow Dante, like, he rarely has the ball in his hands enough to do that when he's not, catching and shooting. 4 assists to 3 turnovers for DiVincenzo. He ended up only playing 27 minutes in this game, in large part due to the perimeter defense issues. Just not a good Dante DiVincenzo game at all. And he was a team worst -9 in this game. So, your studs: Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Bones Hyland. Your duds: Jaden McDaniels, Dante DiVincenzo, and Naz Reid in this one. All right. Peeking ahead, the Timberwolves don't play the middle part of this week. Weirdly, they get 3 days off in a row. That's due to the NBA Cup schedule, or I should say the NBA Emirates Cup schedule. Wolves next play at Golden State, a 1-game road trip out to the Bay Area on Friday night. That's a late 9 p.m. Central tip on NBA TV. And then they play again Sunday is the next game after that. They take on Sacramento back at Target Center, the start of a 5-game homestand that takes them all the way up to Christmas, which is their next road game following Friday. So, winnable games ahead. We're going to break down some individual player trends, I'm sorry, team trends for the season so far. We did individual player trends late last week, I think Thursday show. Now that we're just past the quarter pole of the season, we're like nearly 30% of the way through the schedule. So we're going to hit some team trends. I alluded to some earlier, like, just, I don't know, can they be offense and defense be good at the same time? Can we get any consistency with how the Wolves are playing? The short answer is no. To this point, no. But we're going to try and dig into that over the next couple of days. We'll look at some, updated rotation numbers and lineup data and some stuff like that. So all that to come here for the next couple of days. And then obviously once we get to Friday, we'll preview the matchup against Golden State, who somehow we have not seen yet this season. So we'll talk about that on Friday's show. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Wolves wherever you like to listen to podcasts, so you get all the latest episodes of Locked On Wolves. Also, did we make your Spotify Wrapped? If Locked On Wolves is on your Spotify Wrapped, you can prove it on social media to secure a free month or a brand new Everydayer Club. All you got to do is tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we will send you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel on audio. Make sure to make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. A reminder, you can tag this show on tag Locked On Podcast Network on X and include a screenshot of Spotify Wrapped, and then you get your free month of the Everydayer Club. Again, if you just want to sign up for it, you can find it at lockedonwolves.supercast.com. Of course, Locked On Wolves is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.